This is part of my introduction to administrative law and regulatory agencies. And here I want to clarify the important concept of an enabling statute. And to do this, I want to tell you a story. When I was a law student, and for my Gen Z students, that was a long time ago, back in the 1900s, I did an internship at one point for the state attorney general's office in the state where I was living at the time. And the particular department that I worked in represented the Department of Corrections and the state police and so forth. And for one of my first assignments, I was called into a meeting of some government lawyers with the Commissioner of Corrections. Now, that's the person who oversees, the government official who is in charge of the Department of Corrections or the prison system for the state. So he sort of decides when to open and close prisons, managing prisons, hiring wardens and for prisons and so forth, and setting policies for the Department of Corrections. And he had an idea that the lawyers were discussing with him. You see, in this state at this time, the inmates prepared the food that the other prisoners ate. So different inmates were assigned to different chore details in the prison, and some were assigned to kitchen duty, to cooking. This was actually a desirable chore to get assigned to. It was better than being outside in the hot sun or rain. And you might actually acquire some skills that would help you get reintegrated into society after you completed your sentence. If you knew how to work in a commercial kitchen, you could get a job at a restaurant or a diner or a catering service or something like that. And so this prison system, the Department of Corrections, had actually opened a culinary institute or cooking school for prisoners, for inmates. And they, in a central location in the state, and they would bus the people who had been assigned to kitchen duty from the different prisons in the state to this place periodically to train them in cooking. Now, this cooking institute, so far so good, right, was located in one of these communities that was predominantly a retirement community, or it had a lot of assisted living facilities and senior citizen communities and so forth, neighborhoods and developments and on and on. So for several miles in every direction from this particular piece of real estate, there were a lot of senior living centers and retirement communities. And the Commissioner of Corrections thought it would be a nice gesture to have the inmates make a spaghetti dinner and serve it maybe once a month and serve it to the seniors who lived in the vicinity. They could come there and get a free spaghetti dinner, and the inmates would serve them and see the senior citizens or retirees smiling in gratitude at them and so forth. Now, as a first-year law student, you can imagine the things that were racing through my mind. It was the things I had studied in my first-year law courses. I hadn't had administrative law. And so I was thinking of all the torts that could happen, right? Somebody could assault someone or poison someone or things like that. And also the issues with prisoners trying to escape, problems with the food not getting delivered right to the facility when on the day it was supposed to, all the things like that. And every time I started bringing one of those up, they would cut me off and say, we've already addressed that, right? We've already researched that. We've already decided how we're going to handle that. And my assignment was to determine from the statutes if the Commissioner of Corrections actually had statutory authority to do these spaghetti dinner programs and for the public. We're using the food that the inmates prepared. And so that's where we come back to the enabling statute. By the way, that's kind of the whole story, right? It's not going to be a best-selling novel anytime soon, but this was my personal introduction to administrative law. Is I had to go find a statute. I didn't know what an enabling statute was, and that where the state legislature had created the Department of Corrections and had specified that there would be an official, the Commissioner of Corrections, who was over this department. And this statute, which was really only 1 or 2 paragraphs long, spelled out all the powers and duties and responsibilities of this official, of the commissioner. A lot of it was the things that you would expect for someone who's managing the state's prison system, right? To carry out the penological or punishment goals of the criminal justice system, to protect the inmates, the safety of the inmates, and make sure that they were kept alive and didn't hurt each other or weren't injured, and so forth, to protect the community, the safety of the community. There was a mention of running programs for rehabilitation of the incarcerated population, and so forth. Nothing was there about spaghetti dinners. Unsurprisingly, the legislature didn't say in the enabling statute, which was about a paragraph or two, about all of the duties and responsibilities of the Commissioner of Corrections. They didn't say anything about serving spaghetti dinners to senior citizens. And so this is typical for an enabling statute. So just to give an idea, enabling statutes often are going to be rather succinct and have some broad policy goals that they set forth, some very specific responsibilities and duties and authorizations, or in areas where the commissioner has discretion. And then it's usually pretty short on details. And so the question was, does the commissioner have statutory authority to do this? And if he doesn't, then he would be acting outside of his legal authority. In some other areas of law, we call this ultra vires, right? That's a Latin phrase for acting outside the scope of your legal authority. And the consequence of acting beyond your legal authority is that your actions have no legal force. They're legally void, right? So the Commissioner of Corrections in one state can't just announce what the prisons are going to do in another state that's outside of his legal authority, nor can he set standards for tailpipe emissions from automobiles, right? Or set fire codes for the state, because that's not his job. He has to act within his statutory authority. And so the enabling statute is very, very important in administrative law, and most of our cases are going to discuss it. And the enabling statutes have a lot of sort of broad language and are silent on a lot of issues. So we have a lot of issues with statutory interpretation and looking at the legislative history, or whether we should do that. When do courts defer to the agency for filling in the gaps when there's statutory silence, and so forth. But at the end of the day, anything that an administrator or government official does has to fit within the parameters set by the enabling statute. That's why we call it the enabling statute. And if they don't, they're not able to do that legally, right? So for this assignment, I decided that the answer was probably, right? Probably this could be framed as serving the rehabilitation goals that are part of the enabling statute. And so, right, maybe it would be good for the inmates not only to acquire cooking skills, but to have very limited, monitored contact with the public on special occasions where they could engage in serving people and seeing the responses and kind of see someone outside of the prison for a change. And that might be helpful. But that also means that the commissioner might want to frame the program in terms of the language of the statute and what the statute allows, instead of just saying, I'm the Commissioner of Corrections, so I think I get to do this. This story, my spaghetti dinner story, was my introduction to administrative law, and it's a story I use in my classes and throughout our discussion to keep redirecting students back to the statute. In administrative law, procedure matters, but the statute also really matters. The statute is always paramount. Now, most of the time, they are going to be acting within the statute, and the statutes give a lot of leeway or latitude to government officials, especially the top officials in the agencies. But ultimately, it does set the outer boundaries of what any given agency and the top officials of that agency can do. And that concludes my little story about spaghetti dinners.